Climate Revolution, the Grand Solar Minimum, Understand, Prepare, Adapt, and Thrive is out now. The link's in the description box below. Dr. Wahid Uddin putting out new solar forecast, under 50 sunspots for average for the next solar cycle. Galactic cosmic rays increasing, causing more clouds. Got Western Libya incredibly dry, well, except for these floods. Darfur outlined in blue, incredibly dry desert area except for these floods. Interesting how these new rainfall patterns match areas that were the old Roman grow zones 2,000 years ago. Look at the US, extensive floods, fields looking more like estuaries. And now these same floods devastating seafood production in the Gulf of Mexico. You need to buy more food. And as I've been talking about for the last couple of months, working with my co-author Bill Porter on this new book, 220 pages, Climate Revolution in the Grand Solar Minimum, Understand, Prepare, Adapt, and Thrive. The beginning section talks about our Earth's climate being driven by the sun, not CO2, explaining the science behind it. Part 2 of the book goes into solutions. So if we're talking about beam soil, which a lot of people haven't heard of before, anywhere you see blue in hyperlinks, you click out, it'll take you to reports, PDFs, research, websites, so you can implement your own solutions as well as do more research. And some of the more novel ideas discussed here, using mushroom production in the back of a greenhouse to off-gas that CO2 into the greenhouse to boost vegetable production. And again, when you see those blue hyperlinks, you click, it takes you out to more information portals and resources so you can implement on your own. 220 pages. The link's in the description box below, and it's another way to support Adapt 2030 because you see the amount of censorship starts to increase even more as we move into these changes. And speaking of more solar forecasts coming out, Dr. Wahid Uddin, along with John Casey, Valentina Zarkova, and a handful of others calling under 50 sunspots average for solar cycle 25. And to step us down into the next phase of solar activity, NASA, with a public news release, so it must have been vetted by somebody, comes out and drip feeds a sliver of information about the sun cycle is going to be the weakest in the last 200 years. So if you're aware that you understand solar activity drives climate, weather, jet streams, cloud cells on our planet, you would take this as a warning from them drip feeding. Heinrich Svensmark obviously correlates the galactic cosmic ray increases with extreme precipitation and cloud building on the planet, temperature drops, and floods. So let's compare the African floods with the American floods. Darfur, outlined in blue, bordering with Chad and Libya, incredibly dry desert area. El Fasher, capital, normally looking dusty, hot, and dry, just like this. Cities and towns, arid. Well, except for now, the floods that have just rolled through in the last week, that's an enormous amount of water for these desert areas. This is over a year's worth of rain in a single storm. Found this on flood list, June 13th. Sudan, homes swept away by Darfur flash floods. Now this is the North Darfur area, exactly Al Fasher where I had you on the map there. And I thought, wow, let me dig back in and see if this is becoming a trend. So the same floods started in 2016, bottom left. 2017, massive floods again. On several occasions through 2017, and then as we come through 2018, the floods have increased in intensity. And then we have what we had this last week, 2019. Sure seems like a trend to me since 2016 and the amplification of the floods getting deeper and more intense every year. And I thought, all right, well, maybe that's an outlier. Maybe it's just one location. Let me dig around there. And within the first page, I came up with more floods. Libya, June 5th. Massive major flooding in Ghat district, southwest. So I thought, well, maybe that was the same flood that occurred over in Darfur, perhaps just right on the border area there. It's not. It's completely West Libya. But look how much water has come down there. That looks very similar to what we saw in Oklahoma with the floods. So where is this place on the map anyway? Called Ghat, way western. So where the floods were in Darfur, you have to come clear to the far part of the map here where it says Sudan, and then go further south than 24 degrees north latitude, and then you'll come to that last set of floods. These two inundating rain events were separated by such a vast distance, not the same storms at all. And being a fan of history, understanding that the water flows and rivers gave birth to civilization and settlements, forts, monasteries, trade routes, etc. Take a look here, Western Libya. Wonder if they had more water before, especially when they have forts this size on top of hills. And as you look through the area, there are some trees. Obviously, those roots are grabbing underwater aquifer, maybe from the primary water source in Libya. But the floods again, different area in Gat this time. This is after the floods were receding, so you can imagine how high they were during the full inundation. Again, more than a year's worth of rain in a single storm here. But when you start to match up the old Roman grain growing areas, what you see in northern Africa 2,000 years ago, and we start to see 2,000 year, 6,000 year repeating rain patterns across northern Africa, maybe it makes sense why China has done so much investment there. Perhaps they're setting it up for a new grow zone because they know it'll get wetter. But don't let a good crisis go to waste. CBS Evening News leading in. Climate change, CO2, is responsible for all the floods in the Midwest U.S. Nice. Don't talk about the sun. Don't talk about repeating patterns. And a glimpse in at what the damage was in the U.S., in case you haven't been following the stories here. Levees failing across Mississippi, flooding Arkansas. This is as the floodwaters moved down from Oklahoma area, inundating everything in its path. Back on June 12th to June 17th, looked exactly like this out in the fields. Very difficult to plant, if at all. Farmers using boats to get around their property. Sunken farm machinery buried in mud that will never be recovered. Interesting. A lot of insurance payouts. A lot of people claiming. Over 90% of farmers in so many of states have claimed crop insurance or machinery damage insurance. Insurers are no longer able to insure them. And the rains just keep coming, and they keep coming. And the derecho last week I haven't even covered in here, but that just damaged and soaked even further what was ever out in the fields there. No plant 2019. And QZ, of course, climate heats up. It's got to be because of the floods, right? It's got to be the floods. But the end result is your food production. It's the latest corn and soybean planting on record. And when we take a look at some of these Indiana images here, right image is now, left image is 2017, so you can see the difference in the height of the corn. And this one made Zero Hedge, Christian, putting together as well a collage here off Ice Age Farmer. Before and after images of last year's planting and growth compared to this year. But magically, the USDA's crop report is only using the emerged acres that actually look good. They discounted all the other thousands of unplanted acres, so they'll get a full field assessment off of 2 emerged acres that look good, and this is why the markets are pushing downward. But when it comes into harvest time, perhaps they'll have a reality check. And how much worse could it possibly get now? Well, these Midwestern floods are now devastating seafood production in the Gulf of Mexico. Thinning the water too much into brackish versus salt, and there's too much debris as well. It's silted up the entire Gulf, well, at least to the point where fish are suffocating. So now fish stocks are declining, crops are declining, insurance companies can't pay any further, beans are having a difficult time emerging, and how long can the beans survive in total saturation? Asking for a friend. Thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of the video. I'm also backing everything up on Brighteon, so you can follow me over there. All the new videos I'm posting here, I will upload on Brighteon and start to switch those out in rotation. Free speech community, brighteon.com/adapt2030. And if you're looking for heirloom and organic seeds to plant for the rest of this summer, trueleafmarket.com. The link's in the description box below, along with Climate Revolution, which I think will be of incredible value to be able to explain it to your friends and family, these changes we're seeing, and also help you with some ideas to get ready and prepare to take sovereignty over your own food production.